This call is now being recorded.
This is a free call from
Anthony.
a prisoner at the Michigan Department of Corrections, Cooper Street Facility.
Would you like to share some information with us here on the outside? It's recording now.
Sure. About a month ago, I became quite ill. Went to the officer in the station to go to the clinic. He informed me that we were going under quarantine. So I went back to my cube, which is about 244 square feet with 8 guys in there, and just weathered the storm, weathered the quarantine. Somebody came back and said, well, they're just telling us to drink water and to take some aspirin. So that's what I did. I took some aspirin, drank, kept myself hydrated, and I pretty much got over it in about a week and a half, and I went back to work. We've had a number of guys get sick here, and it's sort of amusing here in the sense that an ambulance shows up, the guys disappear, we never hear from them again. We don't know what happened to them, but we have had 2 men seriously ill. One was tossing up blood here at the unit, in the facility rather.
Hello?
Yes, Darnell. Do you have any questions for me?
Can you tell me what were those symptoms that you encountered, and also how long ago did this begin?
It was about a month ago. The symptoms were I had a fever, I had a very bad cough, and I was just a little bit of respiratory issue. And again, it was about a month ago. I went, just to reiterate, I went to the officer, told him that I wasn't feeling well. He said we were going under quarantine and that it would be addressed. So we went under quarantine for about a week, a little bit more. And by the time quarantine was up, I was over the symptoms. The coughing went away, the fever went away in a couple days, and the respiration, I just started running again, and I felt my lungs open back up, which was actually quite a relief. But we don't get the medical care that I think most are under the impression that we're supposed to have here. If we go to the clinic, they're going to tell us they'll take our temperature, they'll tell us to stay hydrated and take aspirin. And I'm not exaggerating. This is what they do.
Do you know whether or not the quality of care has shifted at all regarding this COVID-19 than it was when you experienced whatever that malady you had previously?
They say it has shifted because I've been reading some of the memorandums, and I've been reading what they're sending us via JPay, but we're not seeing it here on the compound. We don't see any special attention. We don't see any testing going on. I think the information that the MDOC is feeding the inmates on our JPay is just so we can be a mouthpiece to the family by repeating the data that they're providing us, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense.
I'll tell you, as far as my own, I 4 years ago, almost 5 years ago, I injured myself in the kitchen doing vegetable prep at MR. It took me 4 years to finally get my surgery.
You have 1
That's the type of medical
minute remaining.
That's the type of medical care we're getting over here at Darnell. Would you like me to call you back?
Yes, you can call back and just use the call-in number to call.
I'm going to...
A prisoner at the Michigan Department of Corrections, Cooper Street Facility.
You know, he asked me a question about what the MDOC has been doing for the convicts to protect us from COVID-19, and I thought about it last night. The best assessment I can give you is, the actions they've taken have been hit and miss. Example was the face mask passed out with no tutorial. Provided they should have talked about carrying of the mask, such as daily washing, or even how to put on a face mask and wear. And, this created an opportunity for some of the less professional COs to deride inmates that had limited understanding of face mask use. It was really a sad affair. But we did take measures into our own hands. And, contrary to what people think when they see on TV a prison yard, how rough and tough we are, we really look out for each other, and we did. And most of the guys, if they're not washing their hands, will say, hey, man, wash your hands. Hey, man, you got to put your face mask on this way. I know that sounds ridiculous, but that's how it goes. Also, if I could add something to that, Darnell, instructions for hand washing came from family phone calls or televisions. We could have, they could have easily put us in the gym, social distanced us in the gym, and had a tutorial, or even used the intercom system to do some type of auditory tutorial. That didn't happen. The medical response for symptomatic convicts was to quarantine in the unit with healthy inmates. Maybe this is intentional. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe they want to introduce the virus. What is that? The herd strategy? I really don't know, but that seems to be what it is. And previously I said about being a law clerk here on the compound, how we know what's going on. It's sort of funny, Darnell. There's 2 jobs on this compound for convicts that you find out the truth of what's happening at the facility. You're either working in the kitchen or you're working in the law library as a law clerk, and I'm one of 2 law clerks. And frankly, with what we're hearing from Washington's office, Heidi Washington's office, that they're testing inmates, we've had, and I did a little bit more due diligence on this, we've had a total of 3 inmates tested over the last 45 days out of the over 1,700 convicts on this compound. Are you with me, Darnell?
You have my undivided attention, and I'm stunned. I put out a theory on Notes from the Village, sent it 2 guys on our distribution list. My thought is that America, we as people, we are the type of people who can do nanosurgery, people on the moon. What is really beyond us in terms of what we can actually get done and imagine. And I just believe that to some extent there is an organized people in an office somewhere. They've had a boardroom meeting. They've ran the numbers on this. They've looked at the probabilities and the trajectories of everything, and they've said, okay, we can afford to lose this many people and still maintain profits. We can recoup.
That's funny that,
in this kind of a way. And yes, these people are more susceptible. They are an expensive population to keep and maintain because they're aging into our system. We can afford this these many people will catch it, and the probability is that they'll recover. They'll have some symptoms. They'll go through some things. Some may even have long-term issues, but they'll recover. So let's ride it out.
The herd strategy, or whatever it's called, sure. And that's the general opinion of the convict population, is that they are doing this intentionally. Is it paranoia? Is it not? Now, as time goes by, it looks a lot less paranoid than truth. You're hitting it on the nose, Darnell. At least that's what we believe, and are believing more and more every day. You read, I have another law clerk. We have 2 law clerks on this facility, me and another young gentleman, and we follow the executive orders. As of 2 days ago, our governor was on Executive Order 2020-55, and she has not mentioned convicts since 2020-29. Yesterday, or 2 days ago, I got a director's office memorandum that was dated the 14th of April. It said this, and I'm paraphrasing, but not too far off. Do not have in the inmate population stand outside the chow hall on inclement weather days where the weather is below 34 degrees. I said to myself, are you kidding me? Why was this not issued back in October or November? We're coming into spring, and she's issuing this director's office memorandum on convicts standing outside waiting for chow when it's 34 degrees or less outside. And this is the absurdity that we're seeing with how the situation is being handled. I think that epitomizes the management of this COVID-19 here in the MDOC and by the MDOC. Am I making sense on this, Darnell?
Absolutely. Tell me, Anthony, if nothing changes, next week, the week thereafter, a month from now, if nothing changes, what do you imagine? What do you imagine as the trajectory for you all there?
Well, inmate response is going to be bad. It's already, I said there was three. Last night when we spoke, I said that there was three groups of inmates. Those that are, believe they're untouchable and joke about it and do nothing to protect themselves as well as to protect their fellow convict brothers. Then there's the middle of the road guys like myself that do everything to protect ourselves and try and do tutorials with our other convicts and, encourage people along. And then there's the extreme, and the extreme seems to be growing in number as days go by. And that extreme talks about, rioting. Worst case scenario, protests leading to riots. And I do see that happening now on this compound because that element is far more organized and they talk to me on a regular basis. I think that admission could be somewhat detrimental to me from management of convict side. But by all means, use it if you have to because it is getting very serious. Trajectory is something that is, I don't know if it's even being looked at by the MDOC. In that regard, anyways, it's almost like a spirit of Senator Draco, very draconian. If we're going to act up, they're going to come at us even harder.
Do you see any? Can you speak a little more about the symptoms that you may have experienced or seen? And has any of that grown in terms of the population there? Do you see a need for testing?
I can speak on my own symptoms. A few weeks back, about 4 weeks ago, I developed a fever, coughing, respiratory issues. I wanted to go to the clinic. I was informed that we were going under quarantine, so I was sent back to my cube and told that if it gets worse, let them know. Well, knowing that I pay a $5 deductible, now they say that COVID-19, they're not charging a deductible. That's another hit and miss practice. So I self-medicated, and as many convicts do during this time. So they put me back in 8-man cube that's 244 square feet, that I can't stress enough, with possibly seven other healthy gentlemen. And this was before they passed out the masks. As far as symptoms that I'm seeing on the compound, yeah, guys are coughing. And the thing is, guys don't consider that when they expectorate like that, they're projecting their cough. So they don't cough in their elbow. It's just habit. So you're having to change, decades of habits to, and lack of, how can I phrase this, tactfully, health consideration for others. And, so consequently it spreads. And yes, there's coughing. There's, guys that have been taken out of here in ambulances that we never hear from again, but they say, oh, it was nothing. We test them. They're negative. Really? But you took them out of here in an ambulance.
And they don't come back.
And they don't come back. 4 of them have not come back. The 4 that were taken out have not come back.
Anthony, I
again,
tend to go
ahead.
On Facebook Live for the first time, going live this afternoon at 4:00. Lakeland Prison has nearly 700 persons who have tested positive.
I was at Lakeland 7 months ago, and I can understand how they bunk them there.
We have about 3 minutes remaining. Is there any last, most vital message that if I were to play your interview today, what would you want to say to everyone?
I think nonviolent. nonviolent offenders need to be seriously looked at, put them on tether, get them out of the system, protect them from COVID-19. They typically, if they're in level 1, they've shown that they have institutional good behavior, and they should be seriously looked at. Put them on tether. You got the ability to do so. It's more profitable for the MDOC. They don't have to pay for our care, and they can collect whatever they collect every month on tether. These gentlemen face, and I hate to sound overly melodramatic, but a life sentence for having no more than 4 years left on a bit. That's ridiculous and absurd.
Can I go to the extreme, please, Anthony? What is your thought on someone receiving a life sentence, or for whatever the issue of the crime, and now they're being ravaged by COVID-19?
Well, as far as Coldwater has one of the largest lifer populations in the state of Michigan. I believe it's a little over 1,800 for the 1,500 inmate population. As I said, I was there. The way that they're stacking them is not conducive to preventing the spread of COVID-19, and that requires a whole different conversation, how they're bunking and housing those individuals at Coldwater. I suspect most of the deaths have happened in A unit, where they're exposed. It's a controlled environment, environmentally controlled environment with no protection from spreading virus through the ductwork. And as far as other facilities, I can't speak on. But yeah, lifers, guys.
To what extent do we begin to see this as a humanitarian issue, as opposed to this is the low-hanging fruit, let's let these people go? Why? How
you have 1 minute remaining.
How do we ensure the safety of all humanity?
Well, it has become a humanitarian issue, and that's a much longer conversation. If you'd like me to call you back, I'll gladly answer that question, but it's not something I can do in 30 seconds or less.
Absolutely. I'm here all day.
I'll call you back.
That'd be fine.
In about a few hours, Darnell. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.